I'm going live. So, it is Friday. It is only 1:45 my time. Something on my phone. It's my Friday off. So, and it's really dark and rainy, and I actually went into work for a little bit today and then came home. So to me, it feels like it should be 5 o'clock, and it's only 1:45. So what I had planned to do when I came home from work today was work outside, and because it is rainy, I'm not gonna be able to get that done. So I thought I would do my long delayed live stream of the varieties that I am growing this year. I usually do this more in March or even February, but I've been procrastinating this year and I've been putting things off. So I thought, okay, I'm dressed, I got my makeup on, we're gonna do this. So and after this live is done, I will be posting it to the YouTube channel. I'm going to apologize in advance. I don't often do Facebook Lives because the video quality sucks unless you're in Facebook. So when I transfer this over onto YouTube, I'm going to apologize because it is always crappy video on YouTube when I download it from Facebook and move it over. But usually this is what I primarily use lives for, and this is kind of an awkward time for me to do a live. I normally do it at more of like prime time, so Friday when I get off work, or weekend evenings, something like that. During the day on the weekend if I'm out in the yard and I'm being an ex-hairdresser, I want to fix my hair the entire time I'm looking at myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, depending on how long each segment takes for to go through the varieties, I'm going to start with all the varieties that I'm growing specifically that I know I will have some for sale. And then I'm going to move on to the varieties that I'm growing for myself that I may potentially have a few for sale, but it depends on how the varieties do. So I also normally, because I do this earlier in the season, I'm normally sitting at my dining room table. Well, it's kind of my sunroom table. And it gives me a lot of space to spread things out. However, because I'm doing this late in the season, the plants are taking over the dining room table. So see, this is what my dining room table looks like. And I actually already had to move these few trays over here so that I would have enough space to set up the camera. So I have TV trays and I have my plant room stool, so I have things set up so that I have enough space to even have my seeds sorted out into piles. And normally after I start, I would put these seeds away, but I have had them out instead of putting them back into my filing system because I knew I needed to do this live before I put my seeds away. So yay, we can get this done and I can put my seeds away. So let's get started. Here we go. So let's start specifically with heirloom varieties that I am growing for sale. And we're going to start with tomatoes, and then we're going to go into peppers, and then I do have a few miscellaneous herbs that I know I'm going to have for sale. Okay. And I say this every year. I tried to pare it down a little bit on what I was growing, and then it never happens. It never happens. But I did pare down specifically what I'm growing for varieties that I know I will have available for sale. Last year I had a lot of different kinds because I had ordered in a tomato sampler seed pack from Siskiyou Seeds, which is this company, which I really like. They're located not too far up in Oregon. And so you will see that I source seeds from all over the place. It just, whatever flips my skirt up, that's what I buy. But I do tend to try to buy from seed suppliers that are closer to my area, because if this is a open pollinated seed supplier that is in my climate. These seeds are already going to be more adapted for where I live. Now that doesn't, I mean, I don't hold to that because here's stuff that I ordered from MI Gardener. MI stands for Michigan. They're in Michigan. But I still order their seeds, and of course I order from Baker Creek. I do still pick stuff up at the hardware store or the home goods store. If I see something I like, there's like no holds barred on seeds. Gosh, I hate to totally get side railed onto something else. That being said, I need to do an entire another video on, which has been on my agenda to do, on where to source seeds, how to source seeds, because the seed market there was a huge change to the seed market this year with the introduction of a GMO tomato that is available now to the general public. Traditionally, GMO seeds were highly regulated. They're patented by the companies that develop them, engineer them, whatever you want to call it. But this year, a tomato that hit the market is a purple tomato, and it is available for the first time ever to home gardeners, so there's a whole big thing to go into that. I'm not going to go into it now. So back to the main topic. I am going to go through the varieties that I know I will have for sale, the ones that I may potentially have for sale, and then I have a whole nother basket back here that is just the stuff that I planted that, who knows. Okay, so let's get started. If I have enough time, I mean, I may stop with, depends on how long I get sidetracked and how long I talk about umpteen other topics. So if this goes too long, I'm going to break it up into those two categories between what I will definitely have for sale, the stuff I started for myself, which I always have odds and ends of those. There may not be many. So these are the varieties that I know that I have people that want to buy plants for their garden. So I intentionally start extras of these seeds. These I start for myself in my garden, but I want to have maybe 1 or 2 in my garden, so I start 4 or 5. So if they all make it, then I have 2 or 3 to sell. If they don't all make it, then I don't have them for sale. And sometimes none of them make it, and there's no predicting. That is the gamble that you take when you garden. Hi, Debbie. I just saw Debbie come on. So, okay, what I'm definitely going to have for sale this year, heirlooms. Cherokee Purple, because everybody loves Cherokee Purple. It's one of my standards. I grow it every year. And I think on Facebook Live, this is probably reversed for you guys when you try to read the package. So this is a great heirloom tomato. It's not super purple. It's red with a purple blush. The interiors tend to be a little more purple looking than the exterior does. Great smoky flavor, wonderful heirloom tomato flavor. So I will have some of those. And then this, as anybody that has spoken to me about tomatoes, is my all-time favorite. I have yet to find a tomato to top this as my favorite, which is Ananas Noir. I've also seen it called Anna's Noir. Speaking of, back to anybody that's talked to me, so don't ask me about gardening and don't ask me about growing tomatoes unless you seriously want to hear about it, as the lady at the hardware store found out a couple weeks ago, and I could tell she was like trying to chew her arm off to get away from me after I went on a rant about tomatoes. So anyway, Ananas Noir, it's also called a black pineapple. It's not really black, but it is multicolored. The outsides tend to be green, so if you grow this for the first time, you cannot tell when this is ripe to pick it, unless you give it the, don't squeeze the Charmin test, because it will still look like it's unripe and then they will be overripe. So you need to check these by feel every day to see when they ripen. But this I like a super acidy tomato, which is why this is a pineapple tomato, has a high acid content. I love that flavor in a tomato, which is why I'm not a big fan of yellow tomatoes, because they have low acid. I do grow a few yellow tomatoes, and I like them in tomato salads and stuff for color, which you will hear me say when I get farther in. So I will definitely have Ananas Noir for sale this year. How many seeds are left in this pack? Not very many. I had to buy a new pack this year. If you guys got this tomato from me last year and you grew some, let me know if you liked it, how it did. if you thought the flavor was good, etc. So this one I have grown for myself in the past, but I've never had it for sale. This year I decided to have this one for sale. It is Black Beauty, and this is one that is a black tomato that it is legitimately black. The more sun it gets, which they need full sun, the outsides will be completely black. When you cut them open, the insides will be red, and almost some areas are kind of like a nondescript, like clear, for lack of a better word. It's not really clear, but it's not really a color. But these are delicious. I love these, so I will have these for sale. Last year, what did I have for a black tomato? I grew the black Japanese trifle for the first time last year, and I had those for sale. Those were not like a true black. They were more like a purple, like the Cherokee purple, and they were a pear-shaped. They were good. They were okay, but they didn't flip my skirt up, so I'm not growing them again this year. I'm putting these out, so I definitely want to see what you guys think about these and if you like them. Okay. Next, here is a yellow. So I had people request yellows, and because they're not my favorites, I have to pick some, you know, and get excited about them. Last year, I grew Dakota Gold, which is a beefsteak, and I will be growing these again this year for sale. I kept one of these in my garden, however, it did not make it for exonerating reasons. It did not produce any tomatoes. We won't go into it. So if you grew the Dakota Golds that you bought from me last year, let me know what you thought about these, because I'm going to put another one in my garden last year, but I didn't get to actually eat one, so I can't tell you about it. But that is a beefsteak, which is a large tomato. I have had several requests for a yellow tomato that's not huge. Last year I could not find any seeds that fit. I couldn't source any that fit that description that people were telling me they wanted. So this year I found one. It's called Moon Glow, and it is a 3-inch fruit, farm favorite and winner of numerous tastings, thick-walled. So we're gonna try this one. I will have these for sale, and I'm gonna put one in my garden too. I'm optimistic about this one. Next, we'll of course have Brandywine. This doesn't have an exciting picture, so I don't know why I'm holding it so close. Brandywine's the quintessential heirloom that all other heirloom tomatoes standards are held to. This was my granny's favorite. I usually grow at least one every year, if not more than one. Love them. 2 years ago, I had a bunch of these for sale and nobody wanted them. Last year, because nobody wanted them the year before, I grew them, or I didn't grow them, and then everybody asked for them. So this year I'm gonna have Brandywines for sale, and in my garden, of course. I think I had a few of these for sale last year, but not very many, because last year was the first year that I grew this one. It's called Marvel Striped, and it is like a yellow orange tomato, slightly lobed. It was large. It wasn't quite as big as a beefsteak, but it was decent sized. And my son, though, picked one of these out of the garden, and this was the one that he said was his absolute favorite from last year, and he's a tomato junkie just like I am. So because of that, I decided to grow these for sale this year. So I'll have those also for sale. Okay, moving on. I just saw my husband peek around the corner at me. He's doing our taxes, so he probably needs to ask me a tax question. So I'm going to try to get through these, and then I'll probably have to do a second live. But anyway, moving on to hybrids, because hybrids are not bad. A lot of people, they hear heirloom versus hybrid, and they think that hybrid is bad. Hybrid is not bad. Hybrid simply means that somebody has intentionally cross-pollinated 2 different tomatoes to come up with an offspring that has the traits that they want in that tomato. Hybrids are very good. That usually they do great in greenhouse production. They usually do very high production, very uniform fruits. You cannot save the seeds from them, because the seeds from that hybrid will not be consistent as they are with an open pollinated heirloom. But it's the same as if, you know, you were breeding your dogs or you were breeding your horses selectively for being a fast racehorse or having the specific coat. So it's not a bad thing. Hybrids are not genetically engineered. It's completely different. So I am not anti-hybrid. I think that they serve a purpose, and I do grow them. Romas are a hybrid, and everybody grows Romas. So hybrids I'm going to have this year for sale are Celebrations. This is my Aunt Evelyn's favorite, so I always grow them for her. I'm also going to have beefsteaks, standard, plain old school beefsteak. I usually do Better Boys. I used up the end of my Better Boy stock last year of seed, so I didn't have any left this year, and when I went to go find them, I really couldn't find any. And I did have a few people ask me last year for early girls, so I swapped my Better Boys out for early girls, so I will have early girl this year. I'm also going to have Oregon Spring. This was developed in Oregon by a breeder. I want to say in Ashland, but I could be wrong about that. It might have been Eugene at the university, but I'd have to look it up again. I've read it once upon a time. But they are great for cooler climates, shorter climates, cool nights. So these usually perform really well in our area, being at our high elevation. Then this is a new one that I'm growing this year, and this is because I have had several people last year ask me for a smaller, like, pot tomato. Most of what I have out here is going to be an indeterminate plant, which means they vine, and the vines continue to grow and grow until the season ends and it kills, the frost kills them. But an indeterminate grows to a certain size, then they stay there. So they're also called bush variety tomatoes, and they're great for pots. You also see them called patio tomatoes, pot tomatoes, yada yada. So this one is one I've never grown. I just happened upon it. I think I was in Lowe's shopping, and it's called bush steak. So it is, let me see, big 8 to 12 ounce meaty fruits, mature early, which is always a key for where I live because we have a shorter growing season and we have cool nights, on 20 to 24 inch dwarf plants. So I'm gonna have these for sale, and I'm gonna grow some for myself. I hope they do good. Okay, moving on. Paste tomatoes. I'm gonna have only 2 varieties of paste tomatoes available this year, unless I have some left over out of what I'm growing for myself, because I'm growing, I don't know how many varieties for myself. I'm always on the hunt for the most productive, largest paste tomato. I want to grow a paste tomato that is big, because if I'm making sauce, that's less I have to peel. So we're doing, of course, standard Romas and San Marzanos, which is an heirloom. I really like these San Marzanos. I grow them every year, and they are very good producers. They tend to be, the fruit's a little bit larger than a standard Roma. So I'm gonna have those. Okay, let's go into cherry tomatoes, people. So just to give you a disclosure, when I get into what I'm growing for myself, I kind of went down the rabbit hole on cherry tomatoes this year. For some reason, when it's December and January and I'm seed shopping and the weather's really nasty and I wish I was outside, I think every gardener tends to be overzealous on what you buy for seeds. So I got this great idea that I wanted to have a cherry tomato garden with cherry tomatoes of every color. So they're not all in this stack, but when I get to the other stack, we're going to go through them all. But for the varieties that I will definitely have for sale is standard large cherry. This is like the larger salad cherries. Not my personal favorite, and the reason being is because the cherry tomatoes that I prefer to grow in my garden, and my kids have trained me over the years and dictated to this, we like to have the size that you can pick and pop into your mouth and eat. I don't prefer the large cherries because they're just a little bit too big, and if you pop the whole thing in your mouth, inevitably when I bite down on it, it squirts out of my mouth. I get it on my shirt. I'm always wearing a white shirt when it happens. So I do grow them because I do occasionally like to make a salad where I cut them in half and I put them in the top of the salad. They look pretty. I mean, most people love these, which is why I grow them, because I have tons of requests for them. So regular large cherries as usual, yellow pears, which I also don't prefer for flavor, but they look pretty in a salad. So, and a lot of people like those, so I'm gonna have those next year. This year, not next year. This year too. I had one last year, and I bought this seed from Siskiyou Seed. I grew out of the seed packet last year, and the yellow pear that I had out in my garden just produced buckets of yellow pear tomatoes. Okay, Jojo, I got this from Siskiyou Seeds also, and this is a stabilized hybrid cherry. They, let me see what they say. If I remember right, they were working on trying to create a variety that was similar to the Sweetie or the Sweet 100, so, which is a hybrid. So this says, and they're not done stabilizing it, so when I buy this packet of seed, I know that it's kind of a wild card. They could vary. You know, if I grew 6 plants, they may all be a little bit different, because it takes years for them to continuously breed a tomato variety to stabilize it to get a consistent plant. But I don't care. When I grew these last year, it had very fine, well, fine for a tomato, almost kind of ferny foliage. Not as small as a fern, but if tomato foliage was ferny, and a very smaller sized, you know, grape type clusters of tomatoes. So this says vigorous up to 8 foot, indeterminate with abundant clusters of bright red, occasionally yellow and orange. There's your wild card. Super sweet, half-inch fruits. So my boss got some of these from me last year, and he's even requested them this year, so that's why I'm growing them this year. He said that they did phenomenal in his garden, and he loved them. The one that I had was on the corner of my porch in a pot, so it didn't do stellar, but I'm thinking it was because it doesn't get morning sun, it only gets afternoon to late afternoon sun, and it just wasn't super happy there. So I never disqualify a tomato after only growing it for 1 year, because it might have been in the wrong spot. It might have been the wrong year, you know, just not that year. So I always give them several years before I go, yeah, no, I don't really like this tomato, and I nix it. Okay, Brad's Atomic Grape. I absolutely love these. These are delicious, and they sell out first out of all of my cherry tomatoes. I will have some for sale, so if you want one, get here early. Okay, I also have, every year, I have at least 10 people that ask me, and I've already had 2 people ask me this year, are you going to have Sun Gold tomatoes? No, I'm not going to have Sun Gold tomatoes. Here's why. Sun Gold is an F1 variety. Last year, because I've had people ask for several years, last year I looked to source seeds because I thought, well, maybe I'll grow Sun Golds. They were ridiculously expensive. The seed was ridiculously expensive. I want to say it was like $5 for 10 seeds. And it's like, no way. I can't afford to buy that seed and then sell the plant. What you would have to pay for the plant, nobody would buy it. So this year I did look at them, and the seed prices have come down because we're coming out of that COVID high demand for seeds. So a lot of the seed pricing was a little bit more reasonable, not back down to, you know, where it was prior to COVID, but also we've had a huge economic inflation since then, so they may never go back down to that much, which is why I'm getting more serious about seed saving. However, I found this one from Adaptive Seeds, and I believe they're in Oregon. Yes, Sweet Home, Oregon. I really like Adaptive Seeds. I've ordered seeds from them before. This one is called Santiam Sunrise. And so Santiam is an area in Oregon. Santiam Pass is in the winters, horrible weather. I liken it to like Donner Pass down by Tahoe. So they always get the worst weather. People run off the road, but it's a very beautiful area. I'm not sure if they're called the Santiam Mountains or if there's a Santiam Peak. I'd have to look it up. If my husband was here, he would tell you. But anyway, this one I intentionally bought because their description is tall, indeterminate vines that are productive. Fruit are less prone to splitting, yet still tender-skinned. similar flavor to Sun Gold F1, but less fruity and a bit sweeter. I know everybody always asks for Sun Golds because that's what you find in the grocery store, and it's kind of like a name brand name of tomatoes now, but honestly, I bought them at the grocery store. It was not, they're not my favorite. So, but I'm going to try these. I'm super excited about them, and one just because I really like the name. So I'm growing those for sale and for me. Okay, last cherry tomato for sale is going to be your standard Sweetie. These are the typical cherry tomatoes, red, smaller size than the large standard cherry tomatoes. They grow in a cluster. I prefer these over a large solid cherry tomato, and I have a couple customers that specifically want these. It was hard to find the seed for a couple years, but I found it this year from, where did I get this? True Leaf. That's what their seed packages look like, even though I've already tore the top off and you can't see the name. True Leaf Market. So I bought those seeds from them. Okay, that is all of the tomatoes that I will specifically have for sale. Let's do peppers really quick. So peppers, those of you that know me know that I'm a hot pepper freak and I grow a lot of different hot peppers. I make my own hot sauce, and certain varieties have better flavor for hot sauce. I usually don't grow those types of varieties for sale because typically what you're going to make hot sauce out of is a smaller size peppers. People aren't crazy about them unless you're into super hot stuff like we are. So I will probably have a few of those for sale, but the ones that I will definitely have for sale are kind of your standards. So let me see, I'm sorting through them here. Jalapenos. So I'm going to have just standard jalapeno. I got some seed from M.I. Gardner this year, and that's just nothing special, flat out jalapeno. Gonna make a lot of salsa. Need to pickle some jalapenos this year because we're out. I am also going to have, and I get these from Baker Creek, is the Craig's Grande jalapeno. These are not mild, these are still hot, but they are the larger size like what you see in the grocery store. They're great for making poppers, grilling, stuffing, that kind of stuff. Also, I'll have Anaheims, which is, you know, a hybrid green chili, like those. Serranos, I love, I don't know why I did that around that way. I love serranos. I like to make salsa with serranos instead of jalapenos. My friend Joanne eats these raw with her El Pollo Loco, so we eat a lot of serranos. I really like the flavor. I will have a few of these for sale. I think it's not as popular just because a lot of people don't know what they are. They're not used to eating them, but I'm gonna have a few. So this pepper I have grown years ago, and I made salsa verde out of it and green hot sauce out of it. I have not grown it for, oh gosh, we lived out on the ranch the last time I grew this, so it's been at least probably 7 or 8 years. But I had a gentleman specifically last year ask me, do you have Fresno peppers? And I said, no, I don't. But that got me thinking, wow, I haven't grown Fresnos for a long time. So I'm gonna grow Fresnos this year, and I will have some of them for sale. For those of you that don't know what a Fresno is, they are similar to a jalapeno. In my experience, they tend to be a little thinner walled and hotter than a jalapeno. They turn red when they mature, just like a jalapeno. I would say, like, if a jalapeno and a green chili had a baby, it would be a Fresno pepper. So there's that. Okay, that's all the hot peppers. Moving on to sweet peppers, just standard California Wonders, your basic green bell pepper. I'm going to have those. I'm also going to have some mixed colored bells, but you don't know what you get. They could be green. They could be any of these other colors. And banana peppers, sweet banana peppers. We like to pickle these, so I'll have those for sale. And shishitos, they're super popular now because restaurants have kind of made them popular in Trader Joe's. We eat the crap out of these in the summertime. We will throw them on the grill. I will do like the cast iron blistering just with a little bit of salt and olive oil, and we just eat them as a side vegetable. If we're having burgers or steaks or anything like that, chicken, we eat a ton of these. So I will probably have at least a half a dozen of these plants in my garden to pick enough for us to eat all year long. They are heavy yielders. They produce a lot. They're fantastic. The only thing, most of the time they're mild. The only thing is, when you eat shishitos, it's like Russian roulette. 1 out of 20 will be hotter than the hubs of hell, and you never know which one it's going to be, unless your name is Jay Martin, and he always gets it at our house. So, I'm usually safe. Okay, eggplants. I will definitely have. I wouldn't say definitely. I will have a few eggplants for sale. I'm looking back at my grown because my eggplants are up. I love eggplant. I eat a lot of eggplant. I'm really the only person in my house that's super crazy about it. And I have found that at the plant sales, people are not really crazy about it. Nobody really wants to grow eggplant. First of all, eggplant's hard to grow in our area because it's tropical, think like Thailand and, South Asia. That's where it comes from. So these do good in my greenhouse. I put them right in the front of the greenhouse where the sun beats in all day, yet they're still under the greenhouse canopy. It's more humid, and then they usually produce pretty good. But if you don't have the right place for them here where I live, they're not going to produce very well. But I have started 3 different kinds this year, and I think all 3 of mine have come up this year. But I only start 2. I don't know what I started, honestly, to have to check. I'm going to speculate that I started 2 of each of these varieties, and I have 3 varieties, because I want to keep 1 plant of each variety. So if they all make it, I will have 1 plant for sale of each variety. So, and that's probably all the eggplants that I'm going to have for sale. So this one I got from Snake River Seed Cooperative. I really like their seeds too. They are in Idaho. And this is a Florida high bush, which looks just like your typical Italian common variety is Black Beauty eggplant. And then this one is called Millionaire. It's a Japanese purple, so it's elongated. These are great I make curry, love those. And then I like to have color varieties, so I'm also doing the Thai long green. So same shape, but I'm gonna have purple and green. I really like to have some of the Italian too, because what I do with these, because they get fatter, is I slice them up. And I slice up zucchini or yellow squash and onions and fresh tomatoes, and I just lay them in a casserole dish like a fanned out deck of cards, drizzle them with olive oil, some Italian seasoning, and some Parmesan cheese on top, and bake it, and it is delicious. That's what I love to do with them. Okay, that's it. That's for everything that I will definitely have for sale. Oh, no, I'm a liar. Herbs. I will definitely have standard sweet basil for sale. I'm going to have some thyme. It's not a cool picture on here. Thyme plants. I planted a lot of thyme for myself last year because one of my goals is I'm trying not to buy herbs from the grocery store. One of my gardening goals was to not only have vegetables, but the stuff that we seriously eat that is super expensive at the store, I'm going to grow, which is herbs and teas. So I'm trying to grow stuff to make my own herbal teas. I started peppermint last year for that. I like peppermint tea, and I've had peppermint in my yard forever, but I never went out and harvested it and dried it intentionally to make my own peppermint tea. Well, 2 winters ago, I ran out of peppermint tea in the cabinet. I went to the store to go buy some at the grocery store that we have in Wairika, and it was $7 for a box of, I want to say 15 tea bags, and I put it back on the shelf. I'm like, no, I cannot do it, and I didn't. So now I'm trying to grow my own teas, and I've picked out quite a few herbs for that, which probably would warrant its own video. Lemongrass is one of those. I use this in cooking, curry with the eggplant, and for teas. So I had lemongrass for sale last year. I've grown lemongrass for myself for years. So I will have some of those for sale this year. And I should have some cardinal basil. I, for myself, am growing probably 8 different kinds of basil, which I'll do in the next video, but the cardinal basil I really like. This is, I don't know if you've ever gone to like an Asian market. It's the basil that has the really thick, almost reddish stems, and it has bigger leaves. A lot of people call it spicy basil, but whenever I have bought what's called Thai basil or spicy basil from seed to grow, that comes out, it's smaller, very small leafed basil, like a lemon basil or a lime basil, to where this is what I have seen at the Asian markets or the restaurant supply store, they call Thai basil. And this is what I have got in the dishes that if you go to a Thai restaurant. So I love this basil. And when it blooms, it makes these huge purple flower clusters. As it grows, the new leaves that are being put on in each stalk have a reddish tint, which is kind of hard to see in the picture, like right here. And the stems have a real red tint. So this stuff is the bomb. So I'm going to have some of that for sale for sure. I am more than likely going to have yarrow for sale. And for those of you that don't know what yarrow is, here it is. This is common yarrow, and I also got a packet of red, doesn't have a picture. But I wanted yarrow for my garden. It's a medicinal herb. It is great to attract pollinators. It also acts as a pest deterrent in certain situations. What else can I tell you about it? So, disclosure, I grew this last year. I had 2 of those big, like the deep cell 6-packs, I think of them. This is one of the plants that I tortured and killed last year. I grew them. You have to start them early. They sat out on my patio. They kept getting put aside for something else that was more important to be planted until I finally just said, okay, guys, compost for you, because they did not make it. So I'm doing the basil or the yarrow again this year. And the reason why I'm going to have some for sale is because yarrow really requires like a cold stratification period to germinate, and I've just had this packet for 3 years now, so I did not anticipate every seed that I planted to come up, and it did. And not only did I start some of both varieties in my grow room in the house, I also winter sowed some outside in milk jugs. And so here is, yeah, this is all yarrow. This is all yarrow, 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 yarrow. So there's no way I'm going to want all of that yarrow. So I'm definitely going to have some yarrow for sale if anybody wants it. I'm going to have to wrap it up, but let me show you these. I don't know if I can, this is not going to be graceful here, me reaching tomatoes. Stand by, technical difficulties. I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but since I'm here, let's talk about it. So I, in the past, have also grown some micro tomatoes and micro dwarf tomatoes. Last year, in the top of my vertical green stock planter, I put, they're called Micro Tom, and I got them from Baker Creek. So this is what they look like. This is probably as big as he's gonna get, and he's perfectly happy in this pot. I've been pollinating them with a paintbrush, so you see I already have a tomato. I did start these before the micro and micro dwarf tomatoes. I started before the regular tomatoes because I knew they were happy living in pots, to where full-size tomatoes would already be way too big to be in my house. And if you start stuff too early, it will actually stall out and won't do as good in your garden and perform well. But along with my let's grow a cherry tomato in every color fancy for the year, I decided to expand on the micro and micro dwarf tomatoes. So I have quite a few of these, which I may have a few for sale, and these are great in a little, this is only, I think, a 4-inch pot. It really should be like in a 6-inch, so it could be potted up a little bit, but these are so cute. So you can put them on your patio. This is as big as the tomato's gonna get. Some of them are even smaller. They're like pea-sized tomatoes, but Savannah loves to eat them. This one I also grew last year. So this is a micro dwarf. This is just a micro. So this one is probably gonna get, need to water it, maybe maximum 2 feet tall. And this one is indeterminate, so it's gonna be a big long vine, but they produce, I don't know, sweetie sized cherry tomatoes. So, and she's already blooming. I don't know if you can see that, got blooms on it there. I had these in my green stock last year also. So this year, one that I've not, and those also came from Baker Creek. This one also came from Baker Creek, but this is the first year for me growing as called Orange Hat. Orange Hat is kind of in between those two sizes. It's going to be bigger than Micro Tom, as you can see already. But it's going to be more determinate, so it's still going to be bushy instead of vining. But I'm super excited about these. And then I also bought, we're going to get into my other pile here. Let me find them. Hang on. I ordered these from Adaptive Seeds, and these are both, they're dwarf plants. Now this one specifically says dwarf. This one, it doesn't really say, but there's no way I'm going to be able to pronounce this correctly. Uralski? Rainy. It's going to be backwards, but good luck with that. Mini beefsteak shaped fruit. Juicy, good flavor, unique, super early dwarf plants are well suited for containers. Consistently one of the earliest to field ripen. So this is like a micro dwarf beefsteak. So it makes beefsteaks that are like this big. I'm so excited. I may have a few of those available depending on how many did well over in my seed starting. Then this one is called Gundula, I think. Determinate, dwarf. This one does say dwarf. Rugo's regular leafed plants produce medium-sized meaty fruit early and prolifically. Good for container gardening as plants only get 12 to 20 inches tall at maturity. These don't have pictures, so if I remember right, this one was kind of like purple colored, which is why I picked it. Because trust me, I looked at a lot of different varieties before I made a decision. So I may very well have some dwarf and micro dwarf tomatoes available too, depending on how many fill up my space out there. And I think that's it, everybody. Shoot me comments if you have questions. Next live, which I don't know if I might do later on this evening, depending on how the taxes go. Or tomorrow I'm going to be going through the varieties that I'm growing only for me, which is this box, and this pile, and this pile, and that's only the tomatoes, the peppers, and the basil. So, okay, thanks guys. If you're local, hope to see you at my tomato sale. When are they going to be available? I am shooting for mid-May. I'm going to start having stuff out for sale. And then I always have a big sale out for Valleywide Garage Sale Weekend. So on that, I believe I'll be doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this year. And then until they're gone or the season is too late. So shoot me a message. Get a hold of me if you have any questions. If you want to place an order, reserve something specific, I can put your name down on a list. Otherwise, it's first come, first serve when I start putting stuff out. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of our rainy day.